Hey, good evening, everybody. This is Mayor Randall Woodfin along with Dr. Darrell O'Quinn, representative of District 5. And we're happy to be with you tonight for the District 5 Town Hall meeting. Listen, a couple notes. I'm actually going to yield the floor. Wanted Dr. O'Quinn to bring a few words. He'll kick it back to me. We'll go through a brief format, and then we hope to get into some questions and answers for the second half of our hour together. So with that, Dr. O'Quinn.
Good evening, everyone. Apologize for the mouse, but hopefully by now you understand why that's necessary. Want to thank Mayor Woodfin for helping to coordinate this town hall and for all of his staff that's here to help us communicate with you. We have some very important information to share with you regarding what we've been doing on your behalf to make sure that our neighborhoods are safe and clean. And so we have quite a bit of information to share with you. And also, we want to thank those folks who have taken the time to submit some questions. Hopefully we'll have some time to get to those towards the end of this evening. But if you have not been able to do that, please do so in our live stream, and we'll hopefully be able to get to some of those. Thank you. We just want to take the opportunity to say that it's an extreme honor to serve as the District 5 representative on the City Council. As always, I'm deeply grateful to the folks who have given me this opportunity to serve. So thank you again.
Thank you, Doc. Yeah, thank you, Dr. O'Quinn. Listen, everybody, the first half of this format is pretty much an update on a lot of the things the council and I have done on your behalf, and the administration and city services have accomplished and or have done on your behalf of the year of 2020, January 1 of 2020 through December 31st of 2020. Ideally, we can go through this pretty fast. You will be able to see the information on your screen. And then for the second half, again, as I said, for our hour together, we will get into some questions and answers. So with that, if one of the team members can assist in pulling up the actual report for our citizens to see. All right. I don't see that they don't actually have it pulled up yet, so I'll just start talking. The first thing I want to share with y'all is to remember your community resource representatives. These are people that the neighborhood officers are already familiar with, but I really want to know that for the average citizen to also be familiar with. Ms. Jasmine Fells, Harold Houston, Melanie Martin, Andre Watson, and Herman Lumsey Jr. Again, those names are Jasmine Fells, Harold Houston, Melanie Martin, Andre Watson, and Herman Lumsey. Waiting on my team to give me a signal in a minute to tell me why you all don't see it on your screen yet, what I've just shared, because in addition to their names, information related to their email addresses, as well as their office phone numbers, as well as their work cell numbers, I wanted to provide for you as well. Just simply have an update. All right, everybody, that's being pulled up now. So as you can see, I want to go back on the screen. On the screen, you should be able to see the 5 community resource representatives' names, email addresses, and numbers. I want to pause here. I think it's important for you all to know that the information provided here is for you all to take advantage of. So if you see an issue in your neighborhood, you see an issue on your street, if you see an issue on your block, if you have an issue, I really want you to take advantage and give them a call. They are city employees. They work on all our behalf. And one of the quickest ways to solve an issue or have an issue addressed is by making sure you contact one of them. So please take advantage of that information you see before you from the community resource representatives. Next slide is an update on demolition cases. Now these demolition cases, these 160 demolition cases you see here are isolated to just 2020. So from January 1 to December 31st of 2020, there were 160 structures that were beyond repair demolished in District 5. As of course you all know, District 5 is not only diverse in geographical area, but it's diverse in many other ways. With that said, 152 of those demolitions were city contracted, and then the other 8 were private demolition. Councilor, did you want to add anything on this topic?
You know, just glad to see those move forward. We're definitely, you know, there's a long ways to go, especially if you live in the East Lake or Wahoma neighborhoods. We understand that there's a lot of dilapidated structures there, and we're working with the mayor's office to push those forward as well.
Yes, sir. So going to the next slide, I want to give you all an update on housing code inspections. So those resource officers we talked about earlier, with the calls and emails they get, along with the counselors' calls he gets, and Miss Erlene, who works with the counselor, she gets, and our office gets. We want you all to know that we actually respond to them. So literally, again, just in District 5, when you look at this, you see the amount of housing code inspections. That actually may be a typo. That's housing code inspections conducted in District 5 since January of 2020. So that's in the last year. So that January 21 is actually a typo. That should be 1,400 plus housing code inspections in the last 12 months, or the 12 months between January 1 and December 31st of 2020, which is a lot for one district. And so these housing inspections include the things you called us about, violations such as, you know, inadequate utility services that you've seen, or other damages in other systems that were not appropriate, that you've seen walking in your own neighborhood and you've called in to us. And so we've inspected them and engaged your neighbor. Going to the next slide. Wanted to give a short update on condemnation cases. These are structures condemned and identified for demo. And so as you see, this is a breakdown. These are not all the neighborhoods in District 5. However, the ones that have been identified and have moved to the condemnation process are 13 in the breakdown of each of the neighborhoods. Did you want to add anything to this?
Yeah, I just want to say that out of this 13, I believe that there are several that we're going to fund the demolitions directly out of our office. On top of doing those demolitions, you know, making sure that those get done and are funded. We've also worked with the Department of Public Works and PEP to make sure that that our city staff have adequate resources in terms of boarding up structures that maybe folks are going in and out of. It's sometimes it's difficult to stay on top of that situation, and but we want to make sure that our office is on top of that and make sure that DPW and PEP actually have the physical materials to actually keep those structures secure.
Absolutely. So the next slide, we're going to go to a topic that has high interest from Councilor O'Quinn. Dr. O'Quinn, I want him to definitely speak to this, so I'll be brief in my comments. Zoning enforcement cases, which, you know, there's so much activity around this. But these are cases that include violations such as business use, residential property. So when we talk about the mechanic in the front yard, not cool, illegal. Outside storage and home occupation violations and fence violations, and of course, on inoperable vehicles that we want you all to continue to call in to us about. As you see here, there's today 63 active zoning enforcement cases that exist in District 5 alone, where 19 have been closed out. And with that, I'm gonna lob it to the counselor who has a lot of interest in this.
Yeah, so this is something that we hear about a lot in our office. I would say, adventurers say that most people, their home is the biggest investment that they have. And it's, these types of issues affect quality of life, the appearance of a neighborhood in general. And even though, you may be doing your best to maintain your property and make sure that, everything is kept up well, if your neighbors aren't doing the same, then that, is impacting your quality of life and your investment. So we have, many city ordinances that address those types of situations, and we hear about a lot from our constituents that contact our office. So, glad to see these issues moving forward. Been in conversation with Judge Sparks over at Municipal Court, and they're under the circumstances have quite a backlog of cases dealing with this issue, but hopefully we can get beyond the pandemic and get those things processed. But the thing that you should know is that we're actively putting a lot of emphasis on code enforcement, and because we know that it directly impacts your quality of life and the investment that you've made in your property and your home.
Thank you, good sir. So if you all, okay, so what you got next is weed abatement. I guess that's some fancy language for overgrown lots and empty lots. But as you see here, in the 12 months of 2020, there were close to 1,000 of those lots cut. The breakdown between the ones the city cut and the one that was for contract services. I always want to remind citizens and residents, by law, by state of Alabama law, the city of Birmingham and our employees, or through a contractor, is just not allowed to go on a lot just because it's overgrown. It's still private property. We don't own it. And even though it may be a slumlord or an absentee landlord, unfortunately, there's a process through the weed bill to get properties cut. As you see here, there are 483 vacant properties active in the current weed bill, just for District 5 alone. There are more resources we'll put towards cutting when the season changes in 2021. And this is something the councilor is active of making sure, and his staff is active in making sure we find more creative ways to take care of these lots. But I would love the councilor to say anything if he wants to.
Yeah, I just want to take an opportunity to thank groups like Birmingham Blight Busters.
Yeah, they're great.
Who've worked with DPW to go out and cut some of these lots that have been cleared, that either Public Works or the contractors that we also hire to supplement our weed abatement. They pick up some of the slack for us, and I would encourage anybody who wants to get involved and help clean up our neighborhoods to look into that program, Birmingham Blight Busters, and see how you can sign up and volunteer to be part of that program.
Thank you. I want to touch on this topic. I think this is a topic we're all sensitive to. Before I talk about these 2 points, Councilor O'Quinn and I get Dr. O'Quinn and I get a lot of calls about, Mayor, why isn't the city more clean? We get a lot of calls about the city doing more. But the truth is we do more. Many of you all don't know, we send crews out on the weekend, separate from their actual weekly hours, to pick up litter around our city. As you see in this, just for the week of January 28th, the litter crews picked up 474 bags of litter from 18 different locations across our city. And then last week, the litter crews picked up 656 bags of litter from 25 different locations across our city. And here's the deal, y'all. We as a city, we are a very nice city. We pick up trash 6 days a week on routes. Separate from that, we do all these other things of cleaning up our city. And what I'm realizing, the longer we stay in this job, cleaning up the city and keeping the city clean cannot be isolated to the city of Birmingham employees only. Let me repeat that. cleaning up the city and keeping it clean cannot be isolated to the city of Birmingham city employees only. You have to do your part. And I'm not speaking to the choir, the people who go out here and participate in the service projects and the, you know, the all the nonprofit stuff you do, and you get out here and you do your part on your block and street. I'm talking to the people who, when they get off the exit to go to their home, for some reason, they are comfortable rolling down their window and throwing out stuff out of their car. I'm speaking to the people who walk to their neighborhood convenience store or gas station or corner store, purchase something to eat or drink, en route to walking back home. Before you get home and you complete whatever you ate or drink, you just drop it on the ground. Mm-hmm. That doesn't work, because all of a sudden you're comfortable going about your business, but your neighbors are calling the city about why things are so dirty. We're doing our part to clean it up, but we need your help in keeping it clean. And so as adults, the stuff you're doing around littering and illegal dumping, you know it's illegal. But the true thing I'm really asking is, where's your pride? So again, I'm not speaking to the choir, the people who do their part. Speaking to the people who are not doing their part. We need your help in helping keep the city clean.
Yeah, and I'd say one other thing that you can do is simply just use a trash receptacle for your curbside garbage collection. We have a lot of folks who put their trash out in a plastic bag. Yes, that is legal. It's accepted. But we have plenty of animals. Whether it's, I got possums that come up on my porch all the time. So, those animals dig into the trash, they spread it. And that's what we see, a lot is that a lot of the litter that we see in the neighborhoods are actually coming from the neighborhood. So some doing things like using a trash receptacle that, secures the trash bags, that, is something that will help. The other thing that we're doing from our side is we're continuing to invest in the City Hall program. Eventually, we will get to a place where every household has a dedicated trash receptacle and a recycle bin, but it's going to take a while before we can get there. I believe this last budget expanded that program again, but we have 30 plus routes. Mm-hmm. We funded 2 last year. We funded 2 again this year. So we got quite a ways to go until we have every household with a trash receptacle and a recycling receptacle. So, it'll be a while before we have a trash receptacle at every household. So in the meantime, we need folks to help us out.
Thank you for sharing that. So if we go to the next slide, again, we don't have to stick on this, but this is just a point where just in District 5, you can see the borders of District 5 and some of the areas where just picking up litter. So need your help in keeping the city clean. If we're going to go to the next slide, I want you all to know who represents you. So District 5, as we said, it's very unique. In City Council District 6, they have 2 precincts. They have West and they have South. And North, I believe they have West and in District 9, they have West and they have North. And then certain other districts are split. But I think District 5, if I'm correct, may be the only district that literally represents 3 different precincts, North, East, and South. Again, that goes to show you the widespread geographical area of District 5 and how diverse it is. But I want you all to see your different captains here of South Precinct, East Precinct, and North Precinct, who lead the precinct. So take a minute, not just to know their name, but their phone numbers here. And if you have an issue related to a beat officer, if you have an issue you feel has not been solved, this is your leadership at your precinct based on where your neighborhood is. And I really want you all to take advantage of taking this information down and calling their office if you have an issue that's related to policing. Speaking of, just to give some highlighted areas, and there's so much more to talk about, we'll probably get into a lot of your complaints during the Q&A session. around BPD, but we do want you all to know that there's an 8-person crime reduction task force that has been assigned to the city 4 precincts that responds to crime trends in certain areas. We know, for example, the drag racing or speeding, drag racing in Central City is one of them, and speeding in certain other areas of District 5 is another. There's also some of the areas you all have talked about along First Avenue headed into the Woodlawn East Lake area. There's a combination of BPD has a new vice and human sex trafficking unit that is attempting to address this growing problem. But there's also an address I sent to the legal department this morning, headed under the direction of Nicole King, which is a drug nuisance abatement team that also engages the courts to rid either I would say, actual person that owns the property, or any person that lives in this property to get rid of that activity through the courts if we can't get compliance from them. And that runs the gamut: drugs, drug nuisance, noise nuisance, anything you all think is a nuisance to the community. And then the third thing is the citywide traffic task force, which handles complaints of speeding and aggressive driving. So I know this team is actively working because we're getting complaints about people saying they're getting tickets. And so it cuts both ways. Anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, no, will point out that I believe it was year before last in the budget that BPD requested additional funding for radar guns. It was something that had not been invested in by previous administrations. So Chief Smith put that in his departmental budget. And I'm, very glad that we've had some movement on increasing traffic enforcement like that. I want to also thank our traffic task force for being very visible on Crestwood Boulevard at 56th Street over the past few days. We had a horrific accident there this past week. And I know the mayor is very familiar with that intersection. So I want to thank the task force for coming out to that area and helping to slow the traffic down.
For the record, thank you for sharing that. This next slide, if you all know particular areas where you think the task force is needed, please send an email to bpdsuggestions@birminghamal.gov, as you see here on the screen. And or we really want to encourage you, if you have a smartphone, take advantage of the app where you can readily get information from the police department. That being said, I want to go back to what Ms. King in the legal department, Nicole King and her team are doing. So this was started last year in the middle of the pandemic, but this was something Ms. King had spoke to prior to that. They finally got it off the ground in 2020, and I think it's been very successful so far. And so how it works is this: they're able to actually engage in an entire legal process to rid a nuisance. So instead of having the police just come back, if that doesn't work, we go over to the courthouse and say, Judge, these people aren't complying, we need the court's help. All type of options come with that, up to evictions or displacement of this nuisance. So as you see here, this team has received 123 reports of nuisance properties. Of that, 111 have been investigated. 12 properties have been investigated, and 2 properties have been removed. So as you see, it may not be the fastest process, but the process has started since this inception. That 2 tenants has been removed. So we want to put you on notice. We need you to comply, because when I got an address this morning, Dr. O'Quinn, and I sent it to her and her team, and they're going to start investigating. It doesn't matter how long you've been there. If you are a nuisance and it causes a disturbance, then we look to have favor from the judge to rid the community of that nuisance. So to report a property problem, a nuisance problem, please call 254-2369. Again, that's 254-2369. That number is available to call if you are aware of a certain nuisance or drug nuisance from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. So we know some pre-questions were submitted. You know, we're not going to say addresses publicly. And we got information, but you see this number. We want you to call this number if you got firsthand information. Your identity can be kept secret, but we need you to share the information on any drug nuisances you are aware of.
Yeah, you know, and I would say that if you reported a drug nuisance, and you know, just please be patient. It's a process where the law enforcement has to build a body of evidence, and especially with the challenges of coronavirus, things move more slowly through our court systems. So please be patient, and allow the process to play out. But you know that we are moving forward on this, and to the property owners, please understand that if you allow this type of activity to take place on your property, ultimately your property can be seized. So that's allowed by state law. So if you don't want to lose your property, please make sure that your folks who are on that property aren't putting you in jeopardy of losing you know, your possessions.
Thank you, Dr. O'Quinn. Speaking of those who own property, a lot of time when we talk about neighborhood revitalization, you know, we have the categories of not only removing a blighted structure that's beyond repair. There's a second category. We talk about the overgrown lot and attempting to partner with private developers and other people to go vertical with single family homes. But there still leaves a third category of people and citizens out there who say, hey, what about me? I have my existing home. You know, I'm here for the long haul. I'm concerned about my property value, but by the way, I need some help. So the city of Birmingham, through the Community Development Critical Repair Program, has a program for long-term residents or short-term residents who need some upkeep but like to get some assistance through a program. It is a very competitive program spread out throughout all 9 city council districts, all 99 neighborhoods. And as you see here, those who are in a position to receive participate in this critical repair program is broken out by the neighborhoods in District 5. I think it's a cool program. The citizens who participated in it think it's a cool program. And Dr. Quinn and I get calls time to time to say, why can't I participate?
Yeah, and there's definitely a lot more need than we are able to fund through the city of Birmingham. And that's one of the reasons why I've directed my staff to create a resource list for our residents that, you know, go ahead and apply for the critical repair grant program. But in the meantime, also be inquiring with other groups like Metro Changers and many other that are on the private side that help folks out in this type of situation. So regardless of whether you're in District 5 or not, if you find yourself in a situation where, you know, you've got a leak in your roof, or your foundation is failing, or some other critical component of your home is in jeopardy, please feel free to contact our office, and we'll try to connect you with some of those other groups that are doing this work independently.
Thank you, Doc. So going to the next topic, I want to talk about street resurfacing, which is something when Dr. O'Quinn and I came in, it was one of those things we were locked into. Prior administration and council said, hey, there's about $50 million worth of back street paving that needs to be done, backlog of street paving that needs to be done. And like, hey, how are we gonna get there? You can't stop what you're doing in one fiscal year and dump all of your money towards street paving. But a 5-year plan was in position. Certain streets within each year needed to be set, etc. So next few slides, we just wanted to give you a quick update. As you see here, we're currently planning for additional resurfacing. But a big picture, I hope this is big enough for y'all to see. This is one of the few times where we step back and say all of 18, all of 19, and all of 2020, these are the streets that were actually paved in District 5. As you see, that's a lot of different segments that touch a lot of different neighborhoods within District 5. So too many in the name, but as you see from the screen, that's not all the streets in 5, but that's a lot over 3 years, and there's more work to be done with the additional 2 years on this 5-year plan.
One that we're just really going to talk about tonight, we got to call out because it's, one of those big ones is Porto Madrid.
Yes, it's shared by you in District 2. Here's the short version. Ideally, the weather needs to break for us at some point in March or April. We need to move some resources around, and we need to jump and kickstart it in the front of the line, basically. So I've asked my team, with the blessing of Councilor O'Quinn and the blessing of Councilor Hunter Williams, that let us, and in partnership with the state, because we need some additional resources based on where it is in the queue, for it to jump in line from a resource standpoint. So.
Right. Yeah. And, also take this opportunity to give the mayor some kudos. Previous to Mayor Woodfin's administration, street paving was typically paid for by going out and borrowing money. Mayor Woodfin made a major change in coming in and saying, look, we're going to set aside a piece of the city's budget every year to address street paving, and we have stuck to that. Fortunately, this past budget, we were able to meet that $10 million mark, and that's going to be the benchmark moving forward.
It's a game changer to get more streets paved, because we know that's one of the highest complaints. So going to the next slide, as you see, some additional information around street paving. Streets to be resurfaced summer 2021, again, when the weather breaks. Ideally, if anything happens prior to then, it would only be a Porto Madrid. But you see 6th Ave from 28th to Stevens Express, 5th Ave South from Stevens Express to 28th Street South, and Shuttlesworth Drive from 12th Ave to 14th Ave. In addition to that, 32nd Street North from 2nd Ave to 3rd Ave South. Streets plans for resurfacing in the next 2 years. Again, a lot of streets. So we're not going to read them all, but you see that we are heavily invested in making sure we continue to pave streets. So, I see various neighborhoods based on the streets. I guess I've been around District 5 long enough, as Councilor Quinn and I've been, you can look at a street and automatically know what neighborhood it's in. So, for example, we know Dub Ave is the Harris Homes area automatically, or Crest Green South. Again, more streets to be paved. This is a second street, so again, ample street paving coming up in District 5 over the next 2 years, where the streets have already been identified and the money will be in the queue. That being said, we know y'all have gotten really good at dodging potholes. Well, with that said, we do want you to know, just in 12 months, from January to December of 2020, 2,100 plus potholes were, I guess, fill or patch, whatever word you want to call it. We did invest in some new equipment, so it wasn't just filling holes, but it was the squares, or however the professionals describe it. But here's the deal. My office, those community representatives we told you about earlier, Dr. O'Quinn's office, Ms. Erlene, and whoever else it is who works over on this side at City Hall, please keep reporting the potholes so we can continue to fill them. I got some silly number back last year that they told me, and I may be underestimating, but there are over 200 potholes a week the city of Birmingham fills. So we're trying to strike a balance of paving and filling potholes. Anything you want to add on that?
No, just, keep it going.
Pretty straightforward. I got you. Sidewalk projects. This is something, when we talk about everything, Councilor Quinn, when he came in, was serious about smart streets. He talked about a city that's not just drivable, but bikeable for public transportation and walkable. So this is something he's very passionate about. So I'll shut up.
Yeah, no, this is, another issue where we've made progress with this administration. Some of you may not know that the city is actually under a federal consent decree to fix its sidewalks. There's been very little investment that has taken place over the past few decades in sidewalk repair. We have a sidewalk master plan now. If we were to go out and try and fund everything that's in that sidewalk master plan, right now we would need $200 million. We can't do that. So we've got to bite off a little bit at a time. And Mayor Woodfin's team has identified another 5-year plan. We not only have a 5-year street paving plan, but we have a 5-year sidewalk repair plan, and that's now, being funded and implemented. So we're making some progress. Again, we've got decades of backlog to take care of, but we're, taking one step at a time.
Cool. So look, y'all, we got about 25 minutes left before we get to our Q&A. So I'm gonna lob it back to the counselor, just because I know he's very passionate about this issue. A couple of slides, we want to give you updates on transportation initiatives, and we'll get into your Q&A. Take it away.
Yeah, so this slide is about the BRT, or the Birmingham Express, which you no doubt, if you're paying attention to this town hall, have probably heard about many, many, many times before. The construction is actually now underway, and the operations will be, the BRT will be operational by summer of 2022. One thing that I'll add to that is that the BJCTA is also embarking in plans to restructure their routes such that the routes will be reoriented to align with the BRT system. Currently, if you want to connect from one route to another, you have to go downtown to Central Station to transfer to a different bus. With the BRT system in place, you'll be able to use the BRT to actually do those transfers from one side of town to another. So the BJCTA is embarking in developing that plan to realign the routes, and I believe they will start the community engagement process within the next several weeks.
Thank you. And the last one, your go-to.
Yeah, so this is something that I'm, extremely proud of, the Birmingham on-demand microtransit system that was, launched as a pilot project.
Keep going.
Yeah, and you got to thank the mayor for seizing the opportunity to, implement this type of system. It's really one of the best deals in town. If you can get to, or you live or work within the service area, $1.25 to have somebody come within 7 or 8 minutes of you contacting them and bring you to your destination. It connects to all of the civil service needs, the courthouse, Birmingham Waterworks, the Alabama Power, all of our hospitals. You can get there using Birmingham on Demand. I know we have some folks that drive into the Crossplex and will call for a ride from the Crossplex, and that's perfectly fine, and we encourage that. So we hope to continue this program and actually look at expanding the service area, in particular to the east. I think that as we look forward to the 2022 World Games, that Birmingham On Demand is going to play a very vital role in allowing visitors and other folks who are in town for that to be able to get around to the different venues and also be able to enjoy the city while they're visiting. But yes, this is something that we're really proud of. If you haven't tried it yet, please, take a moment to download the app. There's also a phone number that you can call in. You don't have to have a smartphone to use Birmingham On Demand. And if you haven't tried it, I would offer that you can call our office and get a promo code that will allow you to get your first 2 rides for free. So our office number is 254-2679. That's 254-2679.
Thank you, Dr. O'Quinn. So listen, everybody, we're probably gonna go over intentionally a little bit past 7 because we want to make sure we get as many questions as we can in. So my team will give me a buzz when we're time. But in the meantime, I'm going to turn it over to a trusted friend of everybody in the community, Sybil Scarborough, who will lead us through this portion. They've already determined, I guess, what and who can answer some of those questions. There are a lot of professional people on the call with us today, from the Birmingham Police Department to Public Works, Community Development, and various other departments. So with that, Ms. Sybil.
Thank you so much, Mayor. And from Central City and College Hills to Wahoma and Gate City, we welcome all of the District 5 neighborhoods and citizens who are with us this evening. We want to let you know that you can put your questions on WebEx in the chat or on Facebook. We have a team that's waiting to capture those, and we are ready to get those questions. Also, you may submit them to townhall@birminghamal.gov. Again, that's townhall@birminghamal.gov. And thank you to all of you who have sent in many, many questions. We will start this evening with one of the items that was touched on in the presentation that was done. And the question is, it's from Wahoma, and it is, what is being done to address known drug houses in the Wahoma area and trash that is sometimes a constant eyesore?
All right. I guess that question's for me, so I'll take it. I think, or is it not for me? How about this? It's for me, and I'll kick it to somebody, whoever we want to kick it to. On the known drug houses issue, I think there are 2 spaces we can address this in. One is I want a BPD to address, but the second one is from Ms. King's office. If you have an address, take advantage of that number I gave you earlier, or just reach out to us, including Dr. O'Quinn's office. We'll get that address to the nuisance abatement team in the legal department to start that process if it's actually a house that someone lives in. If it's not, what we'll then engage in is finding a way to board that house up if no one lives there.
Thank you so much, Mayor. And we want to remind everyone that number to call for the drug nuisance abatement team is 254-2369. Again, that's 254-2369. We also have Captain Vining on the phone from the East Precinct, and we'd like to kick it over to her for further information on that. Captain?
Yes, ma'am. This is Captain Quigley Vining, currently serving as the captain at East Precinct.
We are waiting for her to come on, and in the interim, we will move on to the next question until she can get on the line. So there's a question about installing new lighting in Woodlawn. A citizen would like to know, when will that take place?
Well, before we answer that question, I think Captain can hear us now. Captain, can you hear us?
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mayor. This is Captain Quigley Vining, currently serving as the captain at East Precinct. I wanted to reiterate that we are currently working on several vacant houses in the Wahoma area, along with Miss Nicole King serving on the department's law department with the nuisance and abatement law. We also currently have a task force that I've put on the issue as well, and work hand in hand along with our work in concert with our vice unit, because a lot of it is developed around the prostitution issue as well.
Thank you, Captain. So the next question I think that Ms. Silva spoke to was lighting in Woodlawn area. If it's existing lighting that's out, you can call the Department of Transportation for the city of Birmingham. Somebody's going to help me get a number soon. If it's new lights you want, I still want to encourage you to call the Department of Transportation because I think there's a process to go about where possibly either a study needs to be done in conjunction with Alabama Power and or to ascertain is additional lights needing, as well as once that information is received, is there an additional cost to that, to the city and or to the neighborhood? But I'll let James Fowler add any additional information if he wants to.
Yeah, good evening. And again, I'm James Fowler, and I serve as the director of the Birmingham Department of Transportation. And I believe, I'm making an assumption, but I believe that this question is referring to a lighting project that we're looking at near the I-65 in the South Woodlawn area. And if that's the case, I don't have an update on the time frame tonight, but please do follow up with our office and we can give the latest status on that project. We're working with Alabama Power and also Alabama Department of Transportation to reconfigure how that wiring is set up so that we can better maintain that. So the number to follow up with our office is 205-254-2450. And again, that's 205-254-2450. Thank you.
Dr. O'Quinn want to add something to this question as well.
Yeah, so particularly with respect to interstate lighting, this is something that we hear about all the time. And, you know, it's particularly frustrating for us. I'm just going to tell it like it is. If you see lights out on the interstate, it's because somebody stole the wiring out of the light. You know, the lights usually, when they go out on their own, it's just one or two here and there, random. But when you see a whole stretch of interstate that doesn't have lighting, it's because all the copper wiring has been stolen out of it. And that is a big challenge to fix. And we're not the only jurisdiction involved. It also involves the state and ALDOT. But that is something that definitely gets a lot of airtime with us. I know Director Fowler is probably, you know, talked about it till he's blue in the face. But you know, please know that the root of the problem is copper theft, and that we're working with ALDOT to develop a solution such that that no longer happens and we can get the lights back on permanently.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Councilor and Mayor. There's a statement with this one. Basically, a citizen says, we need sidewalks. And the question attached to it is, how can we have increased walkability in Oak Ridge Park?
You want to speak to it? Or you want
Yeah,
to
I mean, you know, this is an issue that is not just one for Oak Ridge Park, but if you live in any neighborhood in the city of Birmingham, or really any city in America that was developed after the 1950s, then you probably don't have sidewalks. There was just a time period in, you know, city development where real estate developers and city planners thought that no one needed to walk anymore, that everyone was going to have a car, and so sidewalks were going to not be needed. You know, we know that that's not the case. So one of the reasons that we developed the sidewalk master plan is actually to identify those places that need sidewalks, the critical linkages. And for example, in Oak Ridge Park, Crest Green Road and Fifth Avenue South are two of the main connections in and out of Oak Ridge Park. And I believe that those two streets in particular are higher on the priority list within the sidewalk master plan. All of that being said, we have a lot of existing sidewalk that is in disrepair that I spoke to earlier, and you know, funding for new and additional sidewalk that will happen, but we've got to take care of what we've got at the same time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilor. Mayor, this is one that we do get calls about illegal dumping. And it's a two-part question. First of all, the caller would like to know, how can we stop people from dumping trash at the Oporto exit off of I-20? And they say it looks absolutely awful. And the second part they're asking about is dumping off of Higdon near the Hillcrest area, which they say is unbelievable, and would like to know, can the city designate someone to continuously ride through that area or to keep people from trashing there?
Yeah, you wanna,
And Ralph DeBar-Laban with the Department of Public Works, can you hear us at this moment?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Hey, Silver, can you hear me? I'm sorry, I'm having technical problem. But yes, we do cover the on ramps and the off ramps on a regular basis. But you know, it's like the mayor mentioned earlier. As soon as we have staff to go by there and pick it up, you know, someone else come by and throw paper and litter out as we pick it up. So we do have a crew that's working on the weekends. We call them the litter patrol. But if they have an area and they see an area that we haven't visited, they can just call 254, area code 205-254-6344, and we can have a crew to hit that area. I think she mentioned a Porto, so we'll check it out. But you know, we can only go so far because that property belongs to the state. But if it's as you enter the on ramp to the interstate or exit off, we usually hit those areas. But
okay,
if
so
the citizens, I'm sorry, go ahead. If a citizen see paper out there and they call that number, we'll have a crew dispatch out there to take care of it.
so very quickly, we never ever encourage our residents to be vigilantes. But we do want our residents to be encouraged to take advantage of genuine neighborhood watch programs where you become the eyes and ears for your neighborhood. We can and will and always do give extra patrol, but an officer on a certain beat cannot just sit on one particular block all day. It's just not possible. But you and your, I guess, neighbors, in your own vehicle or on foot patrol, if you know a certain area at a certain time that something possibly is going to happen, we're not asking you to engage. We're actually just asking you to be those additional eyes and ears and use technology, whatever you have, a phone with a camera or whatever. And if you can record it, give us the information. We then can bring a legal suit or a legal complaint and take it from there. Ms. Silva?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. And this one we're going to kick to BPD. It's from Fountain Heights, and they'd like to know, how do we get more police patrol in our neighborhood and in our community?
Here we go. Are we coming up? Is my video running? There we go. Hey, Mr. Mayor, Councilor Quinn, thank you very much for putting this together for us to come together and talk tonight. So Fountain Heights, we're very familiar with. I know Captain Pruitt has had several contacts or several meetings with the neighborhood presidents in those areas. We want the citizens to know that there is round the clock coverage in Fountain Heights area. That's 125 speed in North Precinct. So 24 hours a day, there's an officer on that beat. And from time to time, we know we have some challenges over there. And during those times of challenge, we've placed extra patrols over there, especially with our task force that's moving around the city. But we do want citizens to know that there's 24-hour, 7-day-a-week, round-the-clock coverage of every area in Birmingham. Specifically, in Fountain Heights on 125's beat, there's somebody there 24 hours a day. Captain Pruitt, is there anything you want to add to that? Mayor, I think we're good.
Thank you, sir.
Can I come up?
We can hear you, Captain. Go ahead.
I just wanted to concur with Deputy Chief Sellers in that Pine House area has round-the-clock patrol, and we also supplement additional patrol with our task force. So it's always a patrol officer patrolling the Pine Heights area, which encompass 125B.
Thank you so much. And we want to just give a couple of those numbers again that you received this evening. The Public Works dispatch number is 254-6344. And again, if you wanted to report a problem with speeding or aggressive driving or drugs, you can call 254-2369. The next question will probably kick to DPW as well. It's from someone concerned about their neighborhood. We've received this from the South Side, from the east side, and so forth. And the question is, how do we go about doing a volunteer cleanup? Ralph?
Okay. I'm on. I think you can hear me now. Having a little technical problem. But they could reach out to the CRR resource officer with community development, also with Keep Birmingham Beautiful, Sade Hammond, and we would assist with that cleanup as well by providing a roll-off box. And we also have a little crew. If we know ahead of time, we can send our little crew out as well to participate in the cleanup. If they reach out to their CRR and also Miss Sade McLean, and we can arrange the roll-off box. And if we don't have a roll-off box available, we can send a truck out there if they have a location for a drop-off point where they want to, pile the litter that they gather. I have done several cleanup with some of the council. I think I was out there probably several months ago with Councilor O'Quinn, boots on the ground. We was picking up paper, and I think him and his wife, they was working just as hard as some of the volunteers, as well as some of the city workers. But if they want to reach out to us, they can call that number 254-6344 and just give us advance notice. We prefer, having 30-day or 2-week notice so we can schedule the roll-off box to be on site.
Yeah, I'll just add that, if it really comes from the neighborhood, that if residents want to organize a cleanup, that's where it starts. And if you get in contact with DPW or our office or Sade Hammond's with Keep Birmingham Beautiful, any of those will start the process. And if you get it started, we will have lots of folks show up to help you out.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilor and Mayor. And again, please give us a call. It does start even with your community resource representatives. That number is 297-8192. They are there to assist you. They are there to help answer questions. Call at any time. That number is 297-8192. We're getting ready to tee up BPD because we have a couple of very concerning questions that have come through. And the first is we're going to go from a Central City to South Side and several others. And this one is about drag racing. And it's drag racing on First Avenue North in the downtown area. And the caller says it's becoming worse and often. Is there anything being done to address this? And we will kick this one to Pruitt.
Okay. I'm Captain Pruitt, serving North Precinct. Street racing is fluid. They're never stationary. And so what we have done in North Precinct is implement a plan coming up this weekend where we will have the beat officer as well as a zoning officer who will be specifically paying attention to locations we have received from Intel as it relates to dates and times and location of the street racing to try to deter any street racing.
We have also worked with the officers that if they see any street racing or exhibition of street racing, to cite, as well as tow, or even in some cases we have made arrests. So we have recently made arrests as it relates to street racing, where other proper cause exists for the arrest, but we have towed vehicles and cited them based on the said ordinance.
I will say this, and I think it needs to be said as a resident of Central City. It's not always consistent. One of the challenges Captain Pruitt and her officers face is it's not always at the same time. Even if we know it's higher frequency on weekends, there's a range from 8 p.m. to 2 a.m. in the morning. So, but I think they are very intentional about making sure more resources is dedicated to stopping and or suppressing and or catching those who are street racing.
Thank you so much, Mayor. And this next one is for Captain Greenberg. There's a concern from Lakeview and the 4th Avenue business districts about their businesses, and they want to know, is there anything that can be done about the transient population or anything to help these citizens and address the issue at the same time? Captain Greenberg?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Captain Harry Greenberg, currently serving as the captain of South Precinct, and I appreciate the opportunity to get to speak with everyone tonight. Yes, as a matter of fact, the department has recently developed a new operation we refer to as Project Hope. That stands for Homeless Outreach Partnership Endeavor. We have partnered with One Roof, and currently we have a task force comprised of officers from all 4 precincts on this task force that is going out to address issues of homelessness, finding shelter for many of the individuals experiencing homelessness. And it's already, we're already seeing successes, but it is in the early stages. Again, we partnered with One Roof and led by Miss Michelle Farley. And we know that this is a slow process, but we do look for improvements regularly. Because of COVID, there has been a reduction in available slots in the shelters, and we are seeing an increase in the number of homeless people having to actually live outdoors. So the issue is being addressed, and if anyone has any specific problems, please always give us a call and let us come out and handle any instances of misbehavior. But otherwise,
Thank you so much, Captain. And this will be our last question of the evening, and we'll pitch this one back to DPW with Mr. DeBart-Laban. And the question is, what can be done about recycling, and where is the recycling center located? Ralph?
Okay, yes, I'm Ralph DeBart-Laban. I serve as the director with DPW. The recycle center is located over on 1st Avenue South and 41st Street, but we do pick up recycle once a month on the 3rd Wednesday of the month, as well as once a week in the pilot area. But if they want to drop it off at the recycle facility, it's over by the old Mazer on 1st Avenue South and 41st Street.
Thank you so much, Ralph. And before we turn it back over to the mayor for closing remarks, we want to remind everyone that if you have any additional questions, you may submit those to townhall@birminghamal.gov. Again, that's townhall@birminghamal.gov. And for those who may have had questions about neighborhood meetings and when those are taking place, please feel free to call 297-8192, and someone will be happy to assist you. Mayor, we turn it back over to you.
Thank you. So there's never enough time. But Dr. O'Quinn and I, what I do know about him, he's very consistent in what I'm about to say. We pride ourselves on answering the question. Sometimes even if the answer is not satisfactory to you. That being the case, all of these questions will be answered. So, and then if you have additional questions that haven't come to mind yet, again, as Sybil said, submit them so we can answer them for you. And so that's important to us. And I wanted to state that because we know we're not able to get to all questions with our time allotted. We've definitely gone over, but we thought it was important because there were so many. That being said, I'm going to yield to Dr. O'Quinn, and then he'll pass it back to me to close out.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate what the mayor said, that, you know, out of the many accomplishments over the past 3.5 years of being the representative for District 5, I think one of the things that I'm most proud of is that every day in our office, we are responding to citizens that call in and they've got some issue that they need help connecting to a resource to address. And that, you know, has not changed and will not change. So please, I encourage you to contact our office. Again, the phone number is 254-2679. And, you know, we're here to help. So with that, Mayor, you can close us out.
Yeah. 2 notes before I close us out. There were a lot of questions from District 5 with certain addresses. We are very intentional at these type of settings, not disclosing or publicly sharing the address. However, we do have that information. I want you to know we captured that information, and we will share those addresses with the appropriate departments related to investigating and following up on the complaints you all have shared. So I want you to know that too. There was a question from College Hills centered around police officers getting out of their cars and actually walking their beats, and is that a part of community policing? The answer is yes. Oftentimes, which a lot of people don't, if you follow our officers on social media, you will see that a lot of them, they're never in their cars, they're always out. But a lot of times that's not captured. In addition to that, in the city of Birmingham, the frequency of calls does not, unfortunately, allow officers to be out for an extended amount of time because they have to respond to so many calls, which keeps them in their car more than they want to be and going to the next address to address a call that came out. That being the case, the answer is yes. Part of community policing is our officers actively being in the street. I want to see more of it, just like you. I think our captains of the precincts are more than committed to, as well as Chief Smith, are more than committed to making sure officers get out of their patrol cars and build more community trust and relationships with the citizens they serve on their beat. With that, let me start with several thank yous. The first thank you is to all the people you all cannot see behind the scenes on the mayor's side and the city council side, who are working to make this production successful, to make sure we can communicate with you even in the middle of the coronavirus. The second thank you is to, on behalf of Dr. Quinn and I, to all the neighborhood officers, the presidents, the vice presidents, and the secretaries for your volunteer effort, your passion and commitment for your neighborhood, as well as all the small business owners in District 5 who wake up and take risks every day, to all the faith leaders and all the citizens of District 5 who participated tonight and who could not participate. Thank you for being residents of District 5 and caring about your neighbors and your neighborhood. The last note I'll say is that the coronavirus is still real. We want you all to continue to be safe in my left hand. And in my right hand, we want to encourage you to take the vaccine because it's available now. We want you to call, schedule your appointment. The quicker people take the vaccine, the quicker we can get back to our way of life. That being said, again, Dr. O'Quinn, thank you for your heart. Thank you for our working relationship. Thank you for our open communication with each other. And y'all, he really does go to bat for the citizens and residents of District 5 every day. I'm happy to be in the trenches with him representing you. Y'all have a good night.